No, I agree. I find that it's super convenient, and I think that it makes it a lot easier than trying to go and do like a full Zoom setup or something like that. But
Yeah,
uh,
right now everyone is like their own videographer and video editor, and it just feels nice. Like you're setting up your own Hollywood studio in your own room. It's
right.
cool. Yeah.
It's like exactly. Well, and that's what's so exciting. Oh, by the way, we're live. Do you want to just say hi and introduce yourself real quick, and we'll jump
Hello,
right back
hello.
in?
I'm Pooria, and I'm a guest here in the Gospel of Tao, and we'll see how it goes.
There you go. That's good. That's good. So yeah, we're talking about Web3 and stuff, and I think that's one of the things that's exciting for me. To go back to what you were just saying is we're seeing almost like this internal renaissance opening up for people, right? Like they get into, or at least the people I'm speaking to recently, they get in for any number of reasons. But the one thing that seems to keep people here is it's almost like it ignites a new level of creativity that was, maybe latent or whatever, or maybe they remember it from childhood. Like it's funny to hear different people talk about it. They're like, well, I used to be an artist back in the day, and then I grew up, and now I'm finding it again. And it's like, no, it's like you've always been there. Um,
Absolutely. I Every single time I make a post about NFTs or anything art related, I remember the sketching classes my mom used to take me when I was like, maybe 9 or 10 years old. And it's like it's bringing all those memories back. And if I had known about all these cool things you can do with NFTs, I would have taken those classes more seriously.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's, but it's like what am I trying to say? It's so exciting for me because there's so many different ways you could go with it. But even though people are coming in, every day now, it's not real. You hear this, people say this, so it's not too late. You should have gotten started, yesterday, but today is the next day, and those types of sayings. And that's all true. But I actually think this is the better time for the average person to get involved. Like, I think early is great if you're in a position to take advantage of it. Um, but most of the people that are coming in now, they probably wouldn't have survived the early stages anyway. It's probably better that you waited.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that, and I want to make a personal note here to my mom as well, just because she said that, and I'm gonna tell you what I told her. Same thing. Crypto granny is like what I look towards. She's like what 60, 70 years old,
Hmm.
maybe less or more, and like she's going at it. Content creation, Web3, crypto, all the fun stuff. So whenever anyone just like wants to mention I'm too old, all of this is super complicated. I'm like, if you really want to do it, like everything is out there, right? Just like spend 30 minutes on Twitter one day and you'll learn a lot more than you would expect, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And that's exactly right. Like just jump in, and that's what, like I said, that's what's exciting about this time, is because now there are enough people that have been here long enough that there's guides, right? And now there's platforms, and there's, to your point, just so much education, right? I mean, yeah, on Twitter you can I get bombarded with certain things, but if you come off of that and that experience and start kind of reaching out and doing some research and doing deep dives, there's a lot of really great information out there. There's a lot of, and the thing that fascinates me, and I hope this has been your experience, is just how willing people are to help, right? Especially new people, right? Like if the more, in fact, if you say something like, I don't know, oh, let me show you. You're like, it's such a different mentality from a lot of the other industries that I've been
Exactly.
in.
That's one of the most important things, James, that I like about this whole space, that the community aspect, like in Web3 and DAOs and NFTs, it's that people are willing to help each other just to bring everyone up and to bring the whole space up. So all of us could compete with all the big corps, with all the existing foundational structures out there. So we could have a fighting chance, right? I remember I was in a pre-mint for an NFT, and on Discord I had a question. I just typed it out. In like 30 seconds, someone responds.
Mhm.
I didn't know who the person was. Maybe it was a lady, maybe it was a man, anywhere. But I got the answer to my question. I possibly could have chatted more, and I could have gotten a new friend. And that's just what I like about the communities here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's very welcoming and inviting, by and large. And I mean, I don't, I think I can count on one hand the number of conversations that weren't stellar. You know what I mean? I can't think of a bad. I think I had one bad conversation in the last 6 7 months, and even that wasn't really bad, like comparatively speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just the level of people in the space right now is amazing, and I mean, to me, that's what, to your point, is what's so exciting long term, is because we're seeing these people coming in from all different, backgrounds and experiences and perspectives, and they're bringing all of that holistic approach to their work, and everybody else is too. And so what we're seeing is this amalgam of ideas, and then it's being channeled in so many different ways. And of course, that's my stick, right? Like I think that the purpose driven DAOs are the future, and I think, like you said earlier, those will be the things that compete with the corporatism that I think is really muddled a lot of what's going on in modern capitalism, I guess you would say. But DAOs have an opportunity to kind of retake that and re-empower the individual at scale, and that's what's so exciting, is to see people taking that idea and running with it, in these self-organized groups that you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just reading a document yesterday made by one of the creators of Creator Cabin, the DAO that brings creators together. And it was nice that they had written value driven and goal driven are like one of
Mm,
the mechanisms of how DAOs move forward as a community. So it's either towards the central goal of everyone's interest, or it's in the self-interest of every individual, right? And there's like a small
right.
distinction there. DAOs haven't DAOs aren't like a new concept that some people think of, right? Every Facebook group out there is a DAO. Every university club is a DAO. Essentially, any party or anywhere where more than one people come together and make a decision that benefits all of them or the system could be a DAO, right? And we can get to the technicals, right? Is it on chain? Is it built for investment? Is it built for finding networking and friendships? So I feel like when people talk about DAOs, sometimes they miss the point that essentially it's people coming together to make a unanimous decision on something, often and not agree on that. But yeah, the whole horizon is just great, right? Those
Mhm.
are what will move Web3 and this whole space forward after the NFT boom that we saw last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback off what you just said, I mean, to me, that's DAOs are just the next evolution of human organization, self organization. That, I mean, you could look back over even the more recently with like the move to remote work and freelance and gig economy, right? Things like that. And it's like, okay, people have been looking for a way of self actualizing professionally for a long time, but for most people it wasn't worth the trade-off of having to do it alone, right? Or the hassle of having to build an entire infrastructure for a company. But DAOs allow you the opportunity to split the difference, right? And say, I can give 1% to 100 different DAOs, or I can give 100% to one, or any ratio in between, depending on that individual and the number of passion projects that they have in front of them, and the number of groups available to them at any given time. And each one can have a different type of value, and to your point, can go after a different kind of goal, so that they as an individual can be a part of multiple groups that serve that person's individual collective, while they serve multiple collectives.
I love that. I love how you're like segueing into what I also want to talk about. We were just like watching Dropout last night. It's a documentary about Elizabeth. I forgot her last name. The founder of Theranos, where she was convicted of like a felony of like convincing VCs and their investors that we have a working medical device, but hey, we're years
Oh
away from it,
yeah.
right? So what was
Mhm.
happening in there is that the CEO was the only one in charge of making these decisions. They put up like security around the company and everything to prevent people from understanding what's happening inside. They cut off people without rewarding them for their contributions, without considering the value they brought to the company. And me and my partner were just talking about it. If DAOs had existed years back, this wouldn't have happened. a scientist in a lab in the basement who contributes a lot more than the salesperson at the top, they should get equally proportionally rewarded, right, based on the contributions they have. Source Credit is doing an amazing job in this area. A lot of working digital studio DAOs like Raid Guild, Dorg, they're all doing like great job in here. And um, personally, I would want to work like that, and not the typical 9 to 5 job you see in Web 2.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And most, you know, I wouldn't even say just A players. I would say just all players, right? Like that's what most people want. It's just most people don't think that it's possible, right? And we're finally starting to have a kind of, to your point, a vehicle that allows it to happen in an organic way that people can understand. And Talent DAO is another one that's specifically focused on like research and the scientific community and that kind of thing. And to your point, the focus there being on supporting the work of colleagues, right? And it's not about putting scientists in silos inside two different companies and then making them compete against each other behind shielded walls and guarded gates, working in vacuums because we can't afford for the competitor to steal our. No, like put it together and come up with something even better. Like, and peer review is such a foundational part of the scientific process in particular. Like, why wouldn't you then take that and build it into the process of collaboration at every point you could? And for DAOs, it's just kind of baked in, right? Like that collaboration, that flat structure, and to your point, the equitable return on whatever this turns into, like whatever your efforts turn into, you get a stake of that back that's proportionate. And I think these are ideas that are not as foreign or alien as people might think they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the technology that's the new part, right? But that's not going to be new but for so much longer. It's like papers technology technically, but nobody says, hey, give me a paper ticket or give me a paper contract, right? And it'll be the same thing with NFTs. And nobody goes, oh, hey, I go work for an LLC or I go work for an S corp. Nobody gives a shit. You go work for a company, eventually you'll go work for a DAO, right? It's just new, and that's, I think, scary for some people, but the concepts aren't new. I mean, obviously
Exactly.
compare it to a church because that's self-organizing, but it's a way for people to, like you said earlier, organize around a single point. And I think that once we see some examples of that, then we can really expand what some of those purposes might be, even beyond corporate environments. Like, how great would it be if you didn't have a single person in control of, say, an entire country? In a hypothetical situation, that could be bad, right? And the people could have no vote in it, as where now we have an opportunity to start thinking about, at least, what would a country of organized individuals look like, and now we at least can start the conversation.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that as well. I was a couple of months back, I was just like thinking to myself, as I was seeing like all the deregulation and regulation happening around crypto, and where the safest tax havens that we could incorporate and like start a crypto NFT company there. And I was just thinking, what if I start a country and make it like tax free for crypto? The passport would be valuable. It would be just a small island, and no one would actually live there, but you'd get all the good benefits from the tax and all the immigration benefits, right? And I was just reading 1729 from Balaji's couple of days back, and it's exciting that you can take like 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people in a community, and if everyone is on board with the decisions you're making, they're all engaged, you could eventually go from a Discord community server to a country. And that's just exciting when you look at how the exponential numbers as they go up, you can have more power with the community, right? And that's what all these NFT brands, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Friends with Benefits DAO, they're all using this power of community to make those decisions. Some of them didn't have art or anything to begin with; they just brought people together, and together they figured all of that out, right? It's not like, okay, as you mentioned, just a CEO or a group of people saying, we're gonna do this. We'll be doing this for the next quarter, and we'll meet these projections for this. it's a community decision. It's what the user wants. It's not what the boss wants, right?
Exactly. And oh, there's so many things in there I want to touch on, but one like just like I can, because there's a couple DAOs that I'm I guess associated with that are working on something kind of like that, where or I guess starter, like one of them is building without saying too much, starter cities for a particular purpose, right? Things like that, where so there people are already having those ideas, but to your point, like it could theoretically grow as big as we need it to grow, and I think that's really and exciting to think about. And then to your point, like there's no single uh person, it's self-determinate, so the country can turn into whatever it needs to be as it goes, and it can respond and reflect the population in it, right? And what a novel concept, right? And so but do it in a very real way, in a very transparent way, and in an automatic way, which is so
Yeah.
so powerful.
The whole thing, like whenever I think about it at night, when it keeps me awake, whenever I talk about it with friends and people, it's euphoric, right?
Mm.
um Beginning from like my journey in the very beginning, when I found out about pancake swap and like its returns like 150% APR or APY, and then going to Wonderland time, Olympus DAO, and seeing all those like 70,000 million percent returns, like the whole thing seems like coming out of fairy tale, right? The whole DeFi area, and whatever people are doing together, bringing all these, pooling these resources together, it's just fascinating. And right now we're so lucky to be alive to experience this. And often I thought to myself that I was born at the wrong time. I missed the internet boom, or I'm not seeing flying cars yet. But I feel
Mhm.
like I was just born at the right time, and I'm just experiencing it as I should be.
Yeah, I think a lot of us around this age are kind of feeling that, where it does kind of feel like we missed the boat. But I'm so glad, because I would rather be this age now going into this, or younger would have been okay too, but that's okay. Uh, but I think there's a much larger opportunity here to kind of reshape society in a positive way than even the quote unquote Silicon Valley boom. As impactful as that was, this seems fundamentally more transformative at a basic human level, and I think that's what's going to really take people by shock over the next several decades, is depending on which way it goes. Like it could very we were just talking about the Biden whatever executive order, and
Yeah, yeah.
where that could go. And so I mean, it could go wrong, it could go bad, but I'm hopeful that if we can get enough of these passionate people together, and enough successful examples of DAOs in the next couple years, which I think we will. Just like to your point, I think that'll be kind of the buzzword of the next 18 months or so. I think there's potential there. And oh, going back to like talking about the country thing and buying land, I'm really excited when some of the projects that just didn't make sense for Web 2, they were a little before their time, like oh god, I can't think of the name of it, but essentially it was I think it was like Oceania or something, but they wanted to form their own country made out of like artificial islands that could be interconnected and
Uh-huh.
have like micro cities, and each one would have its own micro economy and its own micro
That's cool.
society and all that, and they could float away or bring each other together as they wanted. It was really cool, but it was like nobody wanted to, it was like interesting, but now you could the governance structure of that could now be something like a DAO, and they could buy that and take that over and run that if that's the kind of thing you want to do.
Exactly.
Um, and that would be a proof of concept, and it would also, I think, open up, because the one thing a lot of people misunderstand about DAOs is that they think they're leaderless, and that's not necessarily true, right? It's not a as you were saying earlier, I guess it's not like a unilateral decision type of, like that's impossible, but that doesn't mean you can't have influence within the group. Like, of course there's that, and but
Exactly.
it's a
You
more
need
organic
the
leadership.
influence. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, you need the influence to bring in people, right? You need someone to put forth some proposals to begin with, to set the foundation that, okay, I'm a benevolent centralized leader. But eventually, once the community is matured enough, we'll go towards a decentralized trustless system. And that takes time to make this transition. And I feel like we still haven't seen a fully decentralized DAO working. I might be wrong, but we're in the very early stages, as everyone is talking about, and it's just great to see how the whole thing is moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I say everything's a proof of concept at this stage. It's
Yeah.
proof of
And
concept of what's coming.
because of that, what I'm hearing is that possibly the one of the fallbacks that DAOs haven't been as popular. It might have been because of like the scandalous thing that happened back in 2016 with one of the very early DAOs, but secondly, it's because of lack of awareness, right?
I think so.
What are DAOs? How do I join one? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? And maybe to a point, the marketing of it, the branding of it, right? Crypto was like super nice. You got all the airdrops, you get free money, NFTs, you get all the get rich overnight people.
You're
But
right.
with DAOs, what's pulling me towards it, right? I feel like we still haven't gotten that answer yet.
Yeah. I mean, I know the answer for me, and like I said earlier, for me, it's people that are purpose driven over profit driven, right? Those are the people that are drawn to DAOs early, because that's the real appeal, is they want to build something long term that makes a big change for a lot of people. That's where DAOs can be powerful. When you do something that's purely for profit, so even if you have, this is not anybody in particular, but even if you were to have, say, a more traditional PFP type of collection that you're trying to turn into a DAO, it's like, but if the purpose is just to constantly resell those so that everybody in the DAO makes a profit, what you've created is, depending on how you do it, anything from a company to an investment pool. It's not, I mean, sure, it could be run as a DAO, but wouldn't have had to have been,
Hmm.
right? Like so a lot of people are using it because it's a buzzword, and I think that that's kind of muddying the image right now, where it's so early on, to your point. And that's why I was saying, I think over the next 18 months, if we start seeing some DAOs that have been working for a while and taking that slow road, and they're flying under the radar because they're not overnight successes, they're not 100, but once they start doing big things like buying sports teams and buying islands and buying infrastructure projects and things like that, and buying up rainforests and
Yeah,
for
yeah.
conservation, it's like at that point, people start paying attention.
Exactly. Krau's house style. It's a good example. You mentioned we were just analyzing them last night, and wouldn't it be cool if you got a DAO that would buy like a whole mansion? Um, that's like the question we want to put forth once we move forwards towards creating a Web3 content house. So maybe just shilling that a little bit. So we're just like thinking, right? Quick background: I'm graduating in 2 months after 2.5 years, and I'm so happy that I'm going to be out of this
Congratulations.
place, and I want to do something important with my life. So we're thinking that, okay, instead of like getting a small place and making content for Web3 ourselves, why not get a bigger place and make content for all the DAOs, for all the Web3 projects, anything in this space that needs marketing, right? And what if we could take the example of House DAO that I'm not sure, did they buy an actual NBA team, or are they like in the process of buying it?
I'm not following it super closely. I hadn't heard they actually closed the deal, but
Okay.
I'm also not tracking it daily. So
That, yeah, that's awesome, right? Why not follow suit of a DAO that brought people 50, 70, $75 million to buy an NBA team, which is just like super awesome. Why not use that to buy mansion, right? We saw
Mhm.
similar examples like Proppy doing the real estate deal in Florida with their NFT house, and it's just a great example. A person in Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines could own a piece of land in Vancouver, the possibly one of the most expensive physical real estate lands, and get all the benefits. That's just like something we're working towards, and it's just like in the very early stages, and we'll be talking more about it, and hopefully we'll get more people on board.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I am, I imagine, it sounds very similar to, like, because one of the issues we're having here in this part of the world is we're having a lot of private equity firms come in and buy up these empty houses, and then they sit on them to let them appraise or whatever. And oftentimes, you know, we're moving entire communities out in some cases just so that we can, sit there and I don't like as much as I appreciate some of the people that take this strategy as individuals. I don't love that strategy when when we could make better use of that. And I think your example is a good one. Well, here's an opportunity to, even if you're going to treat it purely as an investment,
Exactly.
at least let it be, spread amongst, like you said, a DAO or a larger group of people. But I also think there's a bigger opportunity. That I could be wrong, but I think there might even be a bigger opportunity there to, like take a pool of people who are nomadic, especially some of the younger, people that are maybe they're founders themselves, or they're traveling or whatever, and they go, I'll buy a stake in this, and that owns real estate all across the world, right? And they buy whatever it is, apartment complexes or whatever. Maybe they buy small little communities, and as a token holder, maybe I have a set house that is mine if I use it, but I can also now trade with other people in the community, Airbnb style. But instead of it being some rando, it's somebody within my community, and we're both co-owners, right? So any extra units that aren't tokenized, you just rent to normal people that are permanent residents, and then boom, that funds the token holder. So you get a little bit of investment, plus you get a free house, plus you get all the benefits of like a condo network, or what do you call a timeshare network, without any of the hassle, right?
Exactly.
Except a timeshare that pays you, right? So
that's again, it's nice that you're mentioning this. We have that, right? It's called, I'm not sure if it's called Airbnb DAO, but I remember seeing this. Yeah,
something like that.
Everything is going to be a DAO, right?
It's so cool.
I was seeing this super enthusiastic guy reaching out to Gary Vee via TikTok and making videos like, okay, we're gonna do this. If you have the token, you can sleep here for X number of days per year, and it's just great. That's what tokenomics does. It flips sort of the subscription SaaS model that we're already accustomed to, and it makes the company work as equally as the user, right? It's distributing that cost and value. If the company doesn't keep providing that circulating value, then the user wouldn't want to participate in the system. Okay, so if I'm not keeping my promises on the X returns on the token, or I'm not giving you the utility I promised, then me as a user, I wouldn't want to buy that token and hold it, right? So that's just what's super interesting about tokenomics here.
Absolutely. And the other thing that, kind of to piggyback off of that for a second, that I think is really different from, say, a standard private equity, or even a publicly traded kind of investment company, anything like that, is generally speaking, the owners are within the community that the DAO is serving. Like it's a self-serving type of a ecosystem, right? And so there's an advantage to holding over the long term, and there's an advantage to investing into the DAO, as opposed to constantly trying to extract profit out of it, or return out of it at the onset, or something like that. And so then I think what we'll start seeing with some of these larger examples is that continual reinvestment will snowball and allow the community to grow and take on different projects and things of that nature. Oh, you disappeared.
Yeah, the perks of having virtual meetings. Yeah.
Here you go.
I do prefer day and night over anything in real life. I can't remember the last time I shook someone's hands like formally in a business meeting or something. I remember doing it a lot like 2-3 years ago, but ever since COVID happened, I got shocked in the beginning. Yes, I got sad, but I began to adapt to it, and I don't want to go back. The next stage is the metaverse and the virtual world, but I'm not going back to what it was before.
No, dude. So I've been working remote almost a decade now, and it was a real fight in the beginning to get anybody to agree to it. Everybody, I'm saying, very rare did you find companies that embraced it, and now it's like, oh, you don't offer remote? I don't want to work for you. There's 1,000 companies. It's like you're seeing the discussions now, yeah. And I think that's awesome. And then the other thing that we're seeing as a result of the remote thing is that people are like, oh my god, now that I have all this free time, I can be more creative, right? And so we're seeing this kind of, and also I'm generally speaking, most people are more productive when working remotely and far more efficient. So not only do I have more time because I'm not traveling and all the wasted time there, but I'm actually getting more done in either the same amount of time or at least the same amount done in less time, depending on maybe your job or your role. For either way, you're being, if not both, either more productive or you're getting more free time. In most cases, both. And people are starting to recognize, oh, okay, I don't need the big corporate thing. I don't need a boss over my shoulder. I don't, it's like, just tell me where you want to go and we'll get there. And again, that's just baked into the DAO, soul or whatever. It's like, I was talking to somebody earlier and they wanted to be involved in a project and, and they were like, well, what are the requirements? Well, the requirements are this has to excite you. Like that's the requirement. Like it's one of those things where, yeah, if this is what you want to do and this is the need, then yeah, absolutely tackle it. Let's do it. Let's knock it out. But it's one of those things where you can't pay most people. You can't pay them to be creative, right? You can just pay them. You can pay them fake it, but you can't pay them to actually be creative because it's something that comes from, it's an intrinsic thing that has to be sparked. And I think that DAOs in particular and all the stuff that we were just talking about really just creates an environment for the average person to foster their own creativity and really expand upon it. And I think the companies that, whether they go DAO or just adopt some of these ideas into their existing structure, they have an opportunity to really, really, really expand, their team at both, like I said, at various levels, but they'll get the advantage of it as well. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's nice that you mentioned that, using the power of DAOs, but not necessarily in the form of a DAO. What we call it is like taking the best practices of Web3 and applying it to Web2 problems, right? There's a lot of things that could be solved here if we just bring people together and put in more polls, build in public aspects into it, and that's going to reap a lot of benefits. One example is like getting closer to the user instead of like waiting hours for customer support to get back to you, or the transition that like OpenSea made to a different platform to like get in closer contact to the users. Discord serves that exact purpose. Maybe not the best platform to use it yet, but you can actually get support from other real users instead of just like some paid agents working in the company. Another example of like getting closer to the user that I'm thinking of is the marketing manager of Duolingo, the social media person. I forgot her name. She was doing a great job with like all the costumes and Dua Lipa videos she would put out. But I'm just curious, did she get benefited as much as Duolingo was benefiting from it, right? In her contract, was it like a fixed price that, okay, you work 20 hours per month, you get paid X dollars, or is it you get paid X dollars per month plus Y dollars per every follower, per every view you bring about, right? That may not be as easily measurable within Duolingo system or the Web2 world, but in Web3, for example, using SourceCred or another contribution tracking system, you can track how much contribution she made as a marketing person to the company, and is she getting rewarded equally for what she's bringing to the table. And that's just another good example of how you can get closer to the user and be mindful about everyone's contribution.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I had a conversation last week with a founder and they were having trouble finding the right fit for a particular role. And they said, we've thrown money at this person, but they didn't work and all this. And I said, well, have you asked anybody in your community? And they were like, no. I'm like, well, fucking try that. Like, they're already bought into your vision. You might get somebody for free. You're sitting there throwing money at people that don't care. Why don't you go? You have all these people that have literally signed up to donate time. And to your point, you can track how engaged they are with your project. If you have somebody who went out and on their own for no reward went out and brought in, 5, 6, 8% of your growth over the last 6 months, make them a goddamn offer. What are you talking about? Like, it's nuts. It's going to me, I think that's another huge area we can explore is hiring, right? Because you can hire from within your community in a way that is so much more human than send me a resume. We'll interview you. We'll do that. Nobody on either side of that equation likes this fucking process.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally feel that. I'm just gonna use this word. It's dirty and it's inefficient.
Yes.
The recruiter has no interest in the person they're interviewing, like absolutely zero. They are just another point of data that they're going to compare based on some metrics they have, right? They don't care if, okay, James has done all this great stuff in the past, all the hardships he faced, all the small contributions he had in different organizations. They just want to look, do you have a university degree? Do you have this keyword in your resume so the automatic screening tool could pass you through our system? Did you get a private referral from a high individual in our company, right? So if you don't meet those metrics, then you're not going to get accepted. And the whole process takes time, and it's inefficient. No one likes to do it. With DAOs, it could be as easily as signing up for a bounty, or going into their Discord, seeing this channel. If something is up, you just do it. If not, you go to the next one. You got lots of options and lots of freedom in choosing how you want to work and how you want to get paid. And Web2 recruiters, all those systems, they don't want to provide that.
Or I don't know if it's a one or not, because I'm connected with a lot of recruiters and executives and stuff that I feel they're paying too, right? Because you post a job, and if it's a decent one, you're going to get 1,000 applicants. And how do you know? Like, I get it. Like, how do you sort through these people? And that's why I think all of the things you said make so much more sense as a way of approaching it holistically. Like, especially the idea of bounties that you mentioned. I love this. It makes so much more sense. And if somebody is you could literally gamify the application process.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, you want to work full time here? Cool. Here's the roadmap. Like, here's the quest, right? Like, make a goddamn story out of it. Be like, do these bounties, that'll unlock this, and then it's like levels. And then at some point they were like, at this point we're just going to give you money to, or you've made so much money that because you're crushing all these bounties, right, that you might as well be full time. But it gives the power back to the individual without putting the collective at risk, right? And that's always been the thing, right? That
CEOs what the problem with that is, I 100% agree with that, but the problem is that someone or an entity should break down the tasks for a full-time job or for a role and put it into the form of bounties. That's another project we're cooking up on the side. That, okay, how do we take a job and break it down into bounties or into smaller projects that people could contribute to? It's like you need project managers, you need different people involved in the whole process. And future of work, gamification, remote working, it's all super fun and it's engaging. Why would someone want to sit behind a computer for 8 hours a day, type out things and make money like that? And another way they could make money is take a lot of breaks, engage in the community, in the fun section, complete the quest as you mentioned, feel that satisfaction, right? It doesn't need to be intrinsic all the time. Just like I like doing my work and I'm going to keep doing it. It needs to be intrinsic sometimes as well. I want to see that coins popping up. I want to see the number in my wallet going up. I remember seeing a company, I forgot their name, in a Web3 conference, and they were working on something that you could get contributed per second of your work in crypto. and that's just exciting. So for every second you're putting in, you can see the counter going up in your wallet, and that's one of the motivations people need as you're working, right?
Yeah, and I think the key is taking all of these different options and you mix and matching them based on the community and the role and the bounty specific tasks and things like that, so that everything doesn't have to be an hourly job. Some things might be like, okay, let's say I need I don't know, a 3D design for an ad or something we're doing.
Mhm.
I'm not going to pay you for hour. I'll just one bounty for one design. So one to
Yep.
one. But to your point, maybe we need people that are keeping our Discord active. And for that, it makes sense. Okay, for every 5 minutes that you're engaging the community, you earn like you said, a percentage of a token or something. And you can do both in the same DAO without having to like build entirely separate structures. Like you can build all of it in, um, and give people the option to engage the level that makes sense for them as individuals as well.
Exactly.
And
What I really liked most again about DAOs and these Web3 projects coming up is how easy they get to the prototype and MVP stage, right? The whole thing is like you don't need an MVP anymore. You need an MVC, minimum viable community. If you
mm,
have that, the rest will come, right? If you keep the core members engaged and they see your value, they're engaging in your events and activities, then slowly the community will build up and you can get to all the fun stuff later. Build Space is like another learning DAO that I was watching closely, and it's just great. They got a website. You sign in with your wallet. You got some static pages where you go through the lessons, and
mhm,
then the lessons are like live streamed on Twitch. Maybe they use a similar tool like StreamYard, and that's how it works. Everything happens on Discord, a static page website, and Twitch. Now, if you were to make up that edtech platform from scratch, maybe similar to Udemy or other
mhm,
platforms out there, it might have taken months, it might have taken thousands of dollars, but they're putting the money, they're putting the attention to where it matters most, right? No one
mhm.
cares if you're using the latest JavaScript framework and the fastest AWS server. It matters that you're providing value to the community.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, or to put it in Web 2 terms, maybe you could say it's all about user experience, right? It's about the customer being overly, again, to use Web 2, it's about being overly customer centric in all the decisions, right? And not worrying about how it makes the brand look. It's only about worrying how does it affect the actual member, like customer, community member, whatever. Not the people on the outside. Like we don't care what and even the people on the inside, if they're the right kind of people, they're not gonna, like you said, they're gonna care if you're on Zoom versus StreamYard versus Google Meet. Nobody gives a shit. Like just how do I engage? What do I get out of it? These are the questions they want to know, and if you can provide that, then like you said, it's a lot easier just to take, especially for proof of concepts, take existing technologies, throw them together, and just say, hey, this is what we're doing, and then let people. And that's the other part that I love about it, and this goes to that iteration is you get real time feedback instantly, and you're able to change on the fly as you go, and that's something that is really hard in kind of the Web 2 space, right? Because
Mhm.
it works the other way around. Like we build everything and then we see how people like it, right?
Yeah. I know that's exactly a good point, and I tell that to myself. Whenever we're working on like a new project or something. Okay, if the fonts don't match or if the font size isn't the best, no one's gonna care. That's just my own perfectionism kicking in, and it's not a necessity in like what the actual user wants to see. The way I'm seeing it, it's like we're building the next Facebooks and Googles and all these tech giants, but together as a community. So we could have a say that the shape of G in Google in their homepage, how does it look like, or what is the color of it? And every single time I want to use Google, and I see that okay, I said yes to the governance to the proposal they were putting forward on how we could shape this, that would just it would make me feel like I'm a part of that, right? I'm not
Mhm.
just like a consumer sitting there and using Google, because yes, they had millions of dollars, 20 years of research, lots of great people working on it, but there is a disconnect, right? But if I know I have a say in what that service looks like, how it functions, I will feel more connected to it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that, like you said, that's the future, and we're modeling it now. So we're closing in on 45 minutes. I appreciate your time, especially kind of rescheduling here at the last minute. And so, I always like to ask though, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't think about yet?
Um, Not really. It's like what? It's my third or fourth um live session like this, so I feel like I love this. It's not like we didn't have anything planned, or I didn't want to talk about something in specific. As it rolls out, we talked about a lot of good deals, and I appreciate doing this. This inspired us to like start taking this streaming podcasting more seriously. So be on the lookout for our own version of the Gospel of Tao soon, and
I can't wait.
we'll be yeah, we'll be doing more of these in the future. I just love it. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Just in case anybody happens to see this that they want to follow up with you, what's the best way to do that?
Um, if you're seeing this on LinkedIn, it's Pooria Arab, the guy with the yellow background. You can just look it
No, that's
up.
right.
If it's anywhere else, just look up Pooria, and hopefully the first one should come up. I'm not the singer musician that comes up. I'm still working on the SEO, but yeah.
Yeah. No, and I love your LinkedIn because it says very clearly, hi, here I am. Exactly what it's very, very clear and precise. It's very good. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah,
It's
it
been a
was
lot
great.
of fun. Great conversation. All right.
Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully we'll do this again. Thank you.
Absolutely. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
You take care. Have
You
a good
too.
day.